All right, and now we move to my favorite fight on the card, the co-main event of the evening between top 15 ranked, top 12 ranked lightweights, and the number 9 ranked Arman Al-Hakalaitis Tsarukyan comes into the fight with a record of 18 victories and 3 defeats, going up against Damir Ismagulov, who comes back with a record of 24 victories and 1 defeat. I mean, dude, come on. What more could you ask for? You got top 15 ranked fighters, top 12 ranked fighters. Number 12, Damir Ismagulov. Number 9, Arman Al-Hakalaitis Tsarukyan. 18-3 overall, 24-1. I mean, you've got a combined record of 42 victories and 4 defeats. These guys are so young, or at least on the Tsarukyan side. Tsarukyan has 21 professional MMA fights. He's only 26 years old. I mean, the guy was born in 1996. I mean, he's a young kid. He's got a lot of time in this sport, and he's 18 out of 21 fights coming his way, I should say. 18 victories out of 21 fights. You look at Damir Ismagulov, he's coming in 24 victories, 1 defeat. He's going to be older than Tsarukyan, so the youth would side with Tsarukyan for sure, but not that much older. 31, 5 years older than Tsarukyan. 24-1, 13 wins by way of finish, 11 by decision. The only loss coming by way of decision, he's never been finished. Tsarukyan, out of his 3 losses, I believe he only got finished early in his career with his first fight, maybe one of his first professional fights. He lost via knockout, and then his 2 other losses came via decision, but one of those losses was to the current lightweight champion in Islam Makhachev, where, yes, he did lose the fight, but the only guy to ever take down Islam Makhachev is Arman Tsarukyan, and they went back and forth. It's one of the best displays of offensive grappling, defensive grappling, scrambling ability, top position, reversals. Arman Tsarukyan versus Islam Makhachev is one of the best grappling showcases in MMA or UFC history, so go back and check that out. And if I can give you a second one to look at, it will be Arman Tsarukyan's last fight and the decision loss to Mateusz Gamrot, where he got out grappled later in the fight and eventually lost the decision. A lot of people didn't agree with it. I thought it was a good decision. I also had a bet on Mateusz Gamrot by decision, but just going off the fight in general, I think the 4th and 5th round really won it for Gamrot. The early rounds went to Tsarukyan, but they were close, and the later rounds went to Gamrot with the grappling, the scrambling ability, the chaining together of positions, etc., etc. I mean, before that loss to Gamrot, he went on a 5-fight win streak with wins over Olivier Aubin-Mercier via decision, Davi Ramos via decision, Matt Frevola via decision, TKO over Christos Giagos in the first round, and TKO over Yoel Alvarez in the second round. I believe I did pick Arman against Alvarez, but I thought Alvarez was going to give him a lot of trouble. Really wasn't that's really what wasn't showcased there. And then before that win streak, he lost to Makhachev. So losses to Islam Makhachev, the current champion, and Mateusz Gamrot. Look, we're going to break down some of the stats before we get into it, because like I said, this is definitely the fight I want to dive into the most out of anything on the card. You look at the last fight for Arman, a loss via decision to Mateusz Gamrot. The last fight for Damir Ismagulov was a razor-thin decision victory over Guram Kutateladze. If you haven't watched Guram Kutateladze and Damir Ismagulov yet, please do me a favor and go out of your way to watch that before this fight, because you probably don't know who Damir Ismagulov is. You'll know who he is if you go back and watch that Guram Kutateladze fight. A lot of people thought Guram did enough to win 2 rounds to 1. I thought it was razor-thin. I picked Damir that night, so I was happy to have picked Damir Ismagulov to win and got the decision, but I was sweating. It was definitely a close fight, and, Guram definitely showed how tough he is, and I believe Guram Kutateladze is a training partner of Khamzat Chimaev over at All Stars, so you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure they are. You look at the height, 5'7" for Arman Tsarukyan. He's a small guy for 155 when it comes to height and stature. He's a very short, muscular, stout, stocky guy. Kind of reminds me of a Chad Mendes in terms of build at 145 pounds. I think Arman is a pretty good example of like a Chad Mendes at 155. Or like a Husamar Polharis without all the steroids injected into his veins and the monkey tranquilizers and the freaking, the horse tranquilizers and everything that Polharis was on. Besides all that, I think that he kind of reminds me of like a Chad Mendes type of build. A 3-inch height advantage for Damir Ismagulov, 5'10 to 5'7 for Arman Tsarukyan. Only a 1.5-inch reach advantage, but I think that 1.5-inch reach advantage for Ismagulov is going to play a big factor here. 74-inch reach for Damir to 72.5-inch reach for Arman Tsarukyan. You look at the leg reach, 39.5-inch leg reach for Arman Tsarukyan, 40 inches for Damir. Not really going to play too much into factor here. You look at the win percentages when it comes to overall finishes. You've got 67% of the wins coming by way of finish for Arman Tsarukyan to 33% via decision. And on the side of Damir, you've got 56% of the wins coming by way of finish, but 52% of those finish wins coming by way of knockout or TKO to 43% of the wins coming by way of decision. So 33% of the wins by way of decision for Tsarukyan, 43% of the wins by way of decision for Damir Ismagulov. Average fight time, I mean, look, 15 minutes for Damir Ismagulov, 13 minutes and 27 seconds for Arman Tsarukyan. So like 2 3/4 of a round for Tsarukyan to 3 rounds for Damir in terms of average fight time. Usually these 5 guys are going to go the distance, and I do expect it to go the distance in this one as well. Knockdowns per 15-minute fight, 0.32 for Arman Tsarukyan to 0.2 for Damir Ismagulov. You look at the significant strikes. I think this is a very telling aspect of the fight. 3.76 significant strikes landed per minute for Tsarukyan to 4.05 for Damir Ismagulov. Significant strike accuracy rate, 45% in terms of Tsarukyan, 42% for Damir. So even though Damir lands a bit more, Arman's a little bit better accurate in terms of accuracy with the significant strikes. Strikes absorbed per minute, it would show you that Arman is a little bit better defensively. He only absorbs 1.86 strikes per minute to 2.56 for Damir. So basically, Damir absorbs about 1 more strike than Arman per minute in their fights. Defensive stats, this is where I think it's going to play a big factor in the fight. I know a lot of people are going to tell you that Arman Tsarukyan is better defensively, and going off the stats so far, you may agree with that, statement, but 54% striking defense for Tsarukyan to a 63% defense rate for Damir Ismagulov. He is almost 10% better defensively than Arman is when it comes to the striking game. You look at the grappling, 2.71 takedowns for Arman Tsarukyan. He averages almost 3 takedowns per 15-minute fight. Basically 1 takedown a round with some good control. He really only needs to get you down like once or twice, and he'll be able to control you if he winds up on top. Damir lands 1.4 takedowns per 15-minute fight, but for the most part, he likes to keep it on the feet, keep you behind that educated, crisp jab that Damir Ismagulov uses. Very good with his lead hand. His lead hand is definitely his best weapon in his striking game. He's got a 28% takedown accuracy, does Damir Ismagulov, but on Arman Tsarukyan's side, I know people are saying he's going to use his wrestling, he's going to use his top control, he's going to work from inside the guard, he's going to work from the half guard. Yeah, that's all true, and that's definitely what Arman's going to be looking to entail here, but he only has a 33% takedown accuracy. Now, the accuracy rate on Ismagulov's side isn't that much better. However, he doesn't really look to implement his takedowns and wrestling game offensively. He more uses it defensively in terms of the fight. You look at the takedown defense, 75% takedown defense rate for Arman Tsarukyan to 90% takedown defense for Damir Ismagulov. 90% takedown defense. It's going to get tested against Tsarukyan. It definitely will. But Arman's not going to have an easy time getting Damir down to the ground. So if you think that it's going to be easy and a cakewalk for Arman Tsarukyan to take down Damir Ismagulov, you're sadly mistaken, because that's definitely not what's going to happen here. Look, I'm going to be honest here. Damir Ismagulov is the far and away better striker on the feet than Arman Tsarukyan. I'm a big fan of Arman. I've always been a big fan of his. That performance against Islam Makhachev, the grappling showcased. I mean, the left hook he dropped Christos Giagos with, the performance, even the scrambles, the takedowns, the wrestling against Mateusz Gamrot, who's one of the best grapplers in MMA and one of the best grapplers at 155. I mean, man, it was phenomenal, and he's such a talented fighter considering he's only 26 years old. 26 years old. He was born in 1996, and the guy is this good, 18-3 overall. But if this fight stays on the feet, Damir's jab is going to dictate the fight. That lead left hand of Damir is so educated. He's so good at keeping the range, keeping the distance, and popping you with the jab. If he feints the jab, he can feint the jab, go with a lead uppercut. Feint the jab, go with a left hook. 1-2, lead left uppercut, 1-2, lead left hook, jab into the lead hook to pivot off and circle. He's going to use that lead hand to dictate Arman's ability to close the distance and get into the range he needs to cut off Ismagulov and get into the clinch game, get into the grappling, get into the takedown attempts. He's going to have to get past the jab, and getting past the jab of Damir Ismagulov is not going to be easy for Arman Tsarukyan at all. I think the jab of Damir, as I said, is going to dictate a lot of this fight. Look, Arman's got really solid striking. His technical ability is great. His kicking game is really solid, especially the left kick, whether it's from orthodox or him shifting off the right hand, switching to southpaw and landing the left kick to the body or the left kick to the head. I mean, Arman Tsarukyan has a very solid kicking game. The power, definitely on the side of Tsarukyan. The power and the kicks, 100% on the side of Arman Tsarukyan. But that wrestling offense is not going to be there as easily against a guy in Damir who's got a 90% takedown defense. It's just not. So I understand why you guys are leaning heavy on Tsarukyan in terms of the grappling, but when it stays on the feet, Damir is going to outstrike Arman Tsarukyan. Arman's going to have the power advantage, but he's such a short guy. Even though the reach is pretty identical, the length and distance that Damir uses by instilling that jab makes the range and the distance of Damir Ismagulov seem so much farther away than other fighters because he gets full extension on that jab. Lead left uppercut, jab, left hook, jab, lead uppercut, 1-2 down the middle, slip, pivot, roll. He's using long range attacks. He's framing off with the lead hand, faking and feinting, pop, fake and feint, pop. Pop the jab to the body, pop the jab up top to the head. I mean, the guy is going to use this jab to dictate this fight. And it's not going to be easy for Arman to get past the jab, to get into the grappling exchanges. And it's not going to be easy for Arman Tsarukyan to take down Damir Ismagulov. Look, I think this fight stays on the feet for the majority of it, and I think Damir wins this fight strictly off that lead left hand. I think the jab of Damir Ismagulov wins him the fight. I don't think Arman really finds a way to get past that jab. I mean, look, he's 5'7" at 155 pounds. Damir is 3 inches taller. And I know you're going to say, well, look, we already went over the reach. Damir only has a 1.5-inch reach advantage. Yeah, on paper, but let me tell you something. That jab that Damir uses, the lead hand frames, the fakes and feints, framing off with the lead hand to keep the distance, slipping, rolling, pivoting, angling, it's going to be a lot more for Arman Tsarukyan. It's going to seem like a lot more than 1.5 inches in terms of an advantage for Damir. It's going to seem like a 2, 3, 4-inch reach advantage for Arman Tsarukyan. Or, I'm sorry, that's what it's going to feel like for Arman when it comes to Damir's striking game. Damir is going to beat the shit out of Arman Tsarukyan on the feet. I love Arman. I think he's very talented. I think he's a future champion 100%. But I think the boxing ability, the technical ability, and the reach advantage that Damir has that's going to be accentuated and extended by the use of that jab and that lead hand attack and the way he mixes it up with the fakes and feints in the lead hand. I mean, Damir Ismagulov, I think, is going to outstrike Arman for the majority of this fight. I think at one point Arman will get a takedown, but Damir will work his way back up to the feet. And for the majority of the fight, aside from the kicking game, which I think Arman is going to have the advantage in, Damir is going to jab Arman Tsarukyan's face off. And my pick is going to be the underdog. Again, another underdog in Damir Ismagulov, the number 12 ranked lightweight, to beat the number 9 ranked Arman Tsarukyan, handing him his second loss back-to-back via unanimous decision. 29-28 unanimous decision for the plus 160 underdog in Damir Ismagulov over the minus 190 favorite in Tsarukyan. I think the length, the distance, the grappling advantage. I know we don't see Damir grapple too much, but when he got Rafael Alves down, who has really good jiu-jitsu, really good game off of his back, I think the scrambling and the takedown attempts of Arman is so much better than any opponent that Damir has faced. But I also think the reach, the way he uses his length and his reach, and his ability to wrestle, I don't think Arman's going to have much success getting those takedowns, especially with a 90% takedown defense rate. So I'm going to pick Damir Ismagulov, the number 12 ranked lightweight, to defeat the number 9 ranked Arman Al-Hakalaitis Tsarukyan via 29-28 unanimous decision. So we're going with another underdog, the plus 160 dog in Damir Ismagulov. Now, looking at the best way to bet this fight, overall, here's what I say. I think you're looking at overall, best bet, whether it's on the money line, on whatever. I think the best bet to play for this fight is going to be the fight to go to decision. Wait, hold on. I'm looking at the wrong fight here. Hold on. Sorry. Give me a second. It's going to be the fight. Let's see. What's over 2.5? Ooh, shit. All right. Here we go. The safest bet is the fight to go the distance at minus 225. Now, is that something you're going to want to play by itself? No. Is that something you're going to want to parlay? Yeah, I like to parlay on that. So, number one, your best and safest bet is fight to go the distance at minus 225. Number two, okay. I could see this happening, so I'm going to include this. It's going to be the fight to be won by split or majority decision. I think this might only be available on DraftKings, so if you don't have DraftKings, I don't think you can play it. It's going to be plus 450. I could easily see this being a split decision with Damir edging it out. So, number one, your best bet, fight to go the distance at minus 225. Number two, fight to be won by split or majority decision at plus 450. And number three is going to be Damir Ismagulov to win via decision at plus 240. So, we'll run down it again. Fight to go the distance is your number one best and safest play at a minus 225. Number two is going to be fight to be won by split or majority decision at plus 450. And number three is going to be Damir Ismagulov to win the fight via decision at plus 240. I am going with the underdog. I am going with Damir. I think he is being heavily underestimated in this fight, just like Mateus Gamrot was being heavily underestimated against Tsarukyan in his last outing. I love Damir. I think he's way better on the feet. I think he's got good enough takedown defense to stifle the wrestling of Tsarukyan, and I think we're going to see that jab win Damir Ismagulov the fight. So, my pick is Damir Ismagulov to defeat Arman Tsarukyan and move his way up into the top 10 at 155 pounds via unanimous decision.